107.2 FM and online at juicebrighton.com. This is Brighton's Juice.
I'm joined by Peter Carl, who is the Hove and Porstlade MP, our only Labour MP locally. Thank you so much for coming in to have a chat with me this morning.
Not at all, it's a privilege.
It's really lovely to talk to you ahead of the big weekend, of course, which is happening this weekend, the Labour Party conference.
Yep.
How does that figure in your political life? Is this kind of your Christmas? What's the deal?
It's lots of things simultaneously. The best way to think about the conference, or any political conference, is it's a festival of politics. So I'm sure for some people that's exciting, and a lot of people will hear me say that and think that is just hideous, the idea of having a festival around politics. But you'll have the main stage, where you'll have several thousand people in listening to the activities on the main stage, and then the real beating heart of the conference is all the fringe activity around it. So right throughout Brighton and Hove, there will be hotels, there'll be conference areas, there'll be any room which is for public use will be crammed full of people talking about different areas of politics. So this year, for example, there's going to be a lot of talk about what the new leadership means for the Labour Party. Yeah. There will be a lot of fringe activities about refugees and about international development and how we cope with that. So lots of just whatever your activity or your area of interest in, there will be detailed conversations about it going on right throughout the city.
So you sort of mentioned the headliner, Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah.
Who are you most looking forward to seeing? What bit would be on the bill for you that you're most interested in?
Well, every year for me, for the last 5 years at conference, the event I've looked forward to the most, except the main set piece, which is the leader's speech, which is always on a Tuesday afternoon, has been the Progress Rally, because one of the campaigning groups within the Labour movement is called Progress, and it's one of the sort of centrist groups, but they have a rally on a Sunday evening, and they get everyone from the front bench is invited to speak, and they have 5 minutes to come and just bang it out to just say exactly what they feel, really just sing it from the rafters in an old-fashioned rally style.
Yeah.
And for me, I think it's fantastic because you actually get to see all of the different wings of the party side by side. So you don't just wait, one day you see them, the next day you see somebody else, and it's actually side by side in the same evening. So you get to compare the different approaches to politics, the different styles of politics. You get to see what people's substance is, and get to compare them side by side. Well, this year I'm chairing it for the first time.
Oh,
so
man.
for me, that's like all my Christmases come true because I get to actually conduct the evening and bring my style of politics into it, and to actually put some of them under a bit of pressure. So for me, it's going to be fantastic to sit there and just get all these very famous figures in left-wing politics, and to present them to the audience, but also to come back and beat them up a little bit myself as well.
Well, I mean that's really nice that you say that, because it's kind of been an unusual and different and kind of important year for Labour, especially for you and Brighton and Hove, and with this being sort of the end of the year, I mean, does that make it more important? I mean, is there more focus on it? Do you feel because of the build-up of the year, do you feel it's more important or under more focus?
Well, the interesting thing for me is having just done what we achieved in Hove, which was against all the odds. I'm now the only Labour MP in the southeast of England beneath London. And for me, I feel always that responsibility to going to the Labour Party and people within Labour, particularly in Parliament, to say what we achieved here and how we achieved it. So to have conference here 6 months after, the victory that we had in Hove, but also the victory the Labour Party had in the council elections as well, and winning back the council. I want to use this as an opportunity to start a debate about, what we did differently in Brighton and Hove compared to the rest of, not just the southeast of England, but the rest of the country. So it's really important for me, and indeed very special, to have the conference here, because the entire movement is going to be here. There'll be between, there'll be 10 to 15,000 people here this weekend and into it next week, talking about politics and looking and learning about politics and trying to contribute. And I want to make sure that we use it as an opportunity that the Labour Party learns from what we achieved here in the last 6 months. So yes, it's a great opportunity for me. I'm very proud of where we live as well, so I love showing it off.
Yeah, that's true. And it's perfect like venue, isn't it, for something like this?
It is, but actually it's we've got a lot of competition. I go to a lot of these conferences. Manchester puts on a fantastic conference. Birmingham's done a great job of it as well. We cannot rest on our laurels here in Brighton and Hove. We're very proud of Brighton and Hove, but sometimes I think we can be a bit insular. And sometimes I think we're a little bit guilty of looking inwards at how special we are, but not always looking outside of what the competition are doing.
Yeah.
We need to get our conference facilities redone fast and make sure we're staying up there with the best of them. And we need to make sure that when people come here for conferences, not just the Labour conference, but any conference, that we are a welcoming city that actually makes people feel that they're, really welcome here and they can have a great time, and we really celebrate their presence here.
Yeah.
So we should never forget those aspects of it as well.
So when you're talking about what people can learn from Brighton Hove, especially in Labour and winning here and not anywhere else, what do you feel like you want to pass on? What will come up?
Well, I feel very strongly that I won in Hove because I was Labour, not despite being Labour. But what we did was we took the Labour values that I have and that the Labour Party have, and then we took extra effort in showing people that they were going to be put to use solving other people's priorities. I have a real passion for listening to people within the Labour Party movement and way beyond it. And, one of the most interesting things for me was having the opportunity day in, day out, month in, month out through the campaign of being on people's doorsteps in their communities and having a genuine interest in what their worldview is, not just telling them what mine is. And I think we were a little bit guilty as a party running up to the last election of being a bit too satisfied about our own values as a political party, and at times it made it look like we weren't quite interested in other people's. Me here in Hove, and not just me, but the whole campaign, were absolutely ruthlessly focused on what other people were telling us, what their priorities were, and I set about telling them how my values and our values as a party would solve the challenges they tell us they have. That's the big lesson from here, and we need to make sure as we move into a new era of Labour politics with a new leader that we always make sure that we're rooting our values in tackling other people's priorities, because we're here as a political movement to do just that. We're seeking election to become a government. That means we are putting ourselves forward to solve our nation's challenges and problems. And we need to make sure that when we talk about the things that we're interested in as a party, it's always rooted in that belief of existing to solve our nation's problems and people's challenges as well.
And you mentioned the new era with Jeremy Corbyn. How do you think it's going to be received this weekend?
I think it will be received with a mixture of fascination, jubilation. There will be some people who are quizzical. There are a lot of people for whom the jury is still out because he was a radical choice. And whenever you choose somebody who is radical, there'll be a lot of people who weren't carried on that journey and have spent a lot of time in different parts of the Labour movement. So a lot of people will be watching very, very closely to see what the signs are from Jeremy, how much he wants to reach out across the Labour movement, what are the core values he wants to bring into the leadership. We know the way he campaigned and we know the issues he campaigned to become leader on, but now he's leader. He's seeking to take us from a Labour movement into a movement that's going to take us to government. And that's going to mean we need to reach out to a whole load more people that we haven't been speaking to for the last 6 months. And we're going to be very, very keen to see how he's going to do that, because we are the only party of the left in this country that aspires to government. And that's a very special thing. So we need to make sure that every word we utter is rooted in how it takes us down that pathway towards government. And that's the challenge Jeremy has, and a lot of us are going to be giving him as much space as he needs to set out his stall and assure us he's doing it. Yeah. But we're just going to be sitting there watching, seeing how he's going to take us on that journey.
Do you feel as though the rest of the Labour Party is united under him, or it's a difficult time because obviously it happened so recently, and there were people who were disappointed out of other candidates they would have preferred, or who were slightly, as you say, less radical. Do you feel, with the spotlight being on you and the Labour Party conference and it all kicking off at once, do you feel as though that's helping people be united, or it's almost having a divisive sort of effect and people coming out and saying, I wasn't best pleased, but we're going to be fine anyway,
I'm going to answer the question in the reverse way, if that's okay, in that because what the media are desperate for is division and splits, and they're looking because Jeremy was such a radical choice and joined the whole leadership contest. You know, it was him and Liz. You know, people were talking. You had Liz on this side and you had Jeremy on the other. And because Jeremy was chosen, then of course, you know, I supported Liz, so I'm disappointed that the candidate I chose didn't win. So people are kind of hoping, in a way, outside of the movement, in the media, that I would therefore agitate against Jeremy. Actually, I haven't come across anyone from all wings of the Labour Party who don't respect, in a very heartfelt way, the mandate that Jeremy now has to lead. So that is being respected. He is being given the space to set out his stall. There is no talk of, unseating him in a couple of weeks' time and that kind of thing. You know, but letting Jeremy have the space to tell us what his priorities are, tell us how those priorities are going to solve the problems that the nation faces, and tell us how his priorities are rooted in 2020, the next general election, because there's a lot of landmarks towards that. Now, let me just be honest about it. You know, when I look at his campaign and when I look at the argument that his campaign put to us asking for our vote, it was based on the premise that Jeremy is able to reach out because he's a very authentic figure. And I accept that. He is an extremely authentic figure. And he reached out to parts of the left movement that haven't been reached out to by the Labour Party for a long time. Now, the core argument is that he will then be able to transpose that into the general electorate. And I'm looking for evidence that that's going to happen. And that's one of the key things that I'm looking for going forward. But Jeremy won't have any trouble with me.
And what else do you want to come out of the conference? What would you like to see?
I want ideas. I want deep thinking. I think that for various reasons, the Labour Party has failed in its duty to provide really deep answers to some of the nation's big problems for the last few years, and probably a bit further beyond as well. There are lots of reasons for that, but let's not dwell on it. Let's just look to the future. I think we need to be the party which is producing lots of ideas, not be scared of ideas which aren't always palatable and acceptable across the whole movement, but we need to have the argument. We need to have people who are given platforms to do the kind of thinking they haven't done for a while. We need to remove the factionalism that sometimes comes alongside arguments and ideas. And we need to provide the space for people to come together and have an argument and then produce thinking, ideas, solutions, and really come up with some a platform and an excitement around left-wing politics, which hasn't been there for a while, that shows that we are a hotbed of activity, we are a hotbed of thought and thinking, and that we're capable of producing some really, really exciting solutions to the problems we face as a nation. And that's the kind of excitement that people gravitate towards, not stale. I think this, and therefore, you know, different wings come in and pile into it, saying why it's bad. But we need to show that we have a sense of excitement and fun about our agenda, and that our agenda is rooted in the politics of the whole electorate and not just interested in talking to ourselves. That's what I want to come out of this conference. It's what I want to come out of this conference and seep into every avenue and every wing of our party going forward as we move towards 2020.
It was really nice to hear you talk about it so passionately. Like, I am
very passionate about it. You know, when you go through a 2-year campaign that was very, very vigorous and so energetic, you know, I don't just want to park that and then just suddenly become this MP at the other end of it. Like I've been through this sort of sausage factory that produces MPs at the other side. Yeah. I want to take what we learned from the campaign and put it into action as an MP. Yeah.
Can I ask you another question about sort of it's something kind of separate that has just been like the biggest political story this week that a lot of people are talking about. A lot of people are talking about Lord Ashcroft and the book and what's happening there. I mean, what do you reckon on that? Like, how do you interpret that whole thing?
I haven't read the book because it's not released yet.
Yeah.
I saw the headlines and I saw some of the very, very funny stuff that was going around on Twitter yesterday or over the course of this week. But you know, I don't think there's anything in there which I think is out of character for how people assume David Cameron lived his life when he was a younger man. Therefore, I don't think it's going to have much of a political impact going forward. You know, I think what really changes the dynamic or has a the potential to change politics is when something counterintuitive comes up. Had that book suddenly revealed that he had lived in a monastery for 6 months and then gone and worked in a refugee camp quietly, incognito, because he's such a saintly person, he doesn't want anyone to know, then suddenly, I think people that would change politics. But the fact that David probably did some of the things that were in that book, it's not a surprise to me. Is it a surprise to anyone?
Well, thank you so much for coming in today. It's been
pleasure.
really lovely to talk to you. I have the best time at the festival.
Thank you.
And what's the best way for people to sort of stay in touch with you and follow you and keep in touch with what you're up to over the weekend? I
am the most accessible MP that's out there. I've even got a shop on the High Street in Church Road in Hove, where people are very welcome to come in, and if I'm around, then I can chat. But I have some fantastic staff and volunteers in there that love meeting people. I'm on Twitter. I'm on my Facebook page is just Hove and Porstlade, and all of those messages come straight to me as well. So I'm very accessible. There's probably on the internet the program for the conference, and I'm speaking at lots of the events as well. So come along and say hello.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you. Thanks.